Be your bubbly clear self. We've worked out everything this time.
Promise, guys.
Ahead of time. So it'll be different today. Just need to see if Amanda's on here yet. I'm sorry, Nicole, I can't add you, but thanks. Just need Amanda. Amanda's not on here yet. I've invited her, but she's not on the live feed yet. Okay.
It's happening.
Yes!
It's gonna work.
We did it!
Now I don't know what I did with my headset.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Can't have gone far. Oh, I was sitting on it.
So this is Amanda Light.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Good. I'm gonna get this on here, and I'm gonna lock this door so nobody comes in here and says, "What in the world are you doing?"
Right. Right. Yeah. Mine's locked. There's a sign on it, and I'm sitting in front of it. Hi, Brittany. Happy Thursday. I know, Nicole. Yes. So this is Amanda Light. Amanda, when did you start selling real estate?
When I was 18 years old, like forever and a bunch of days ago.
So walk us through that. What made you start selling real estate?
Well, honestly, I was trying to pay my way through college. I'm one of 8 kids, and I knew that if, I wanted out of my very small hometown and off the farm, that I would need to really hustle to be able to put myself through college. So I was a biology, chemistry double major, working 3 jobs, and I bought a house, and basically the realtor said, maybe you should sell houses in the summer. So they sent me to a career night, and I don't know if any of you guys know Rob Daniel, but he is a bold coach in Keller Williams now. Back in the day, he was like a regional recruiter trainer at another company, a traditional company there in Williamsburg, Virginia. And I met him, and he said, I can teach you for sale by owners, which was a good thing because I was 1,100 miles away from home and literally knew no one except 4 college students. So it wasn't like I had a sphere or anything. Right. So got into the business thinking, I could make somebody once upon a time led me to believe that I could make $10,000 if I sold a house. And one of my jobs was throwing newspapers. And when you compared that, you had to throw a lot of newspapers to make $10,000. Right. So got into real estate, really loved it. I got to help. That was my path was pre-med, was a biology chemistry double major. And I got to help people in real estate, and it was never life-threatening, and I made good money, so I stayed.
Right, because you and I connected, because where is hometown originally?
Arkansas.
It is. So we're both Arkansas girls.
Yeah, I live like 12 miles from the nearest town, which had 3,000 people. So yeah.
Yeah, you're from Dardanelle.
Dardanelle,
and, yeah.
And 12 miles from Dardanelle.
And you went to the Arkansas School for Math and Sciences.
Yes.
And people that aren't from here don't know, but people don't get into that school lightly. I mean, it takes a lot to get in there. It's only the upper crust students that get in there, and they go and they live there, like in a dorm setting in high school.
Yeah, it's a boarding school.
It is a boarding type school, and they're groomed. And you are I
didn't feel groomed.
Honey, you're groomed.
I was the dumbest one there I was. I just worked harder than everyone else. True story.
Well, your story is going to tell the bold law of your cells, eavesdrop on your thoughts. So you were not the dumbest one there by any means.
Okay.
I don't believe that.
Well, everybody was incredibly smart. I am really
Yes.
good at putting myself in rooms where everyone is way smarter, and I have to like be like a duck with my, you know, my little whatever duck feet are called under the water to keep up. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so you moved out of Arkansas, and you met Rob Daniel, and he recruited you, and you started your FISBO campaign.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. So, I sold 53 homes as an individual agent, was at that company for 8.5 years, eventually decided for the amount of money that I was paying that company, maybe I could, even though I didn't know how to run a business, I could certainly make some business mistakes for a couple $100,000. So I thought I'll just go out and open my own company. Knew nothing. Of course, I didn't know anything about the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book or anything like that.
At what age?
25, I started my own company. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then that was 2005. And of course, that was like, I didn't know it, but that was not a very good time to like decide you're going to go try to own a brokerage. Yeah. And then I didn't know exactly what was happening in the market. I did know that, you know, leads had slowed down. And at the time I had 5 buyer's agents that worked for me. And then I had a runner. And that was it. So I was the assistant. I was the broker. I had many, many hats. I didn't work with any. I did know that I didn't have time to work with any buyers. And I had built my career in such a way that I worked for sell by owners when I would just happen upon them. And I had done a really good job of taking care of people. You know, my dad had always said, you know, Mandy, you can do anything you want as long as you work hard and keep your heart in the right place and, you know, help others. And so that was kind of my mantra. And because that's who I was, right? You know, it was what I was born to be, I suppose, or what I was raised to be. That's how I showed up in every conversation. So I had a lot of repeat business. And then I just started to notice that the phone wasn't ringing as much. And I got concerned because at that point I had all this overhead. I bought a little office duplex and had all this overhead and all these buyer agents that were really lead dependent, meaning everything that they did was coming from me, and they had non-working spouses and babies. And I was just getting a little worried. And I always had it in my mind that I would take care of them and I would give them everything that I could. And if the phone stopped ringing, like I certainly don't have time to slow down and really train them, or at least in my mindset at the time, I don't have time to slow down and train them. I'll need to double down on my activity so that I can pay the overhead. So,
so because you weren't with Keller Williams.
No, it was just
so
my company.
The model wasn't in place.
Right.
And so you hadn't trained them to lead generate.
Right. There's a concept.
Yeah. Right. And,
yeah.
You were still coming from contribution the whole time.
Oh, sure. Like my heart was in the right place. I just didn't know what I didn't know. And I was limiting them. Right. And it wasn't even about my ego. It wasn't like Amanda Light Realty or anything like that. In fact, I didn't want my name on it. It was the name of the company was Realty Group of Virginia. So it had nothing, like people didn't know I owned it. Anyway, so I felt like the market was slowing down and I didn't know exactly what was happening. So I kind of brought them all around a conference. Actually, it's kind of a funny story. I had sold a home to a financial planner and he came in and the office was super nice. Like, you know, it's like an architect's office or something. It looked really nice. I was very proud of it. Little boutique. And he comes in and he says, why don't you just take your hard drive and your files and sell me the space? And I made a comment, don't tempt me. And he said, no, I'm serious. I said, me too. And so I literally sold out furniture, everything to this financial planner. And I sat down with my team and I just said, you know, guys, I think we should go to a bigger company where, you know, at the time I was thinking they could sit the duty desk or they could go to some trainings for someone else. Basically, we could leverage that. And I would still give them as much as I could. Yet, you know, I just wanted to make sure that like I wasn't solely responsible for their livelihoods and for being able to feed their kids. So they said, well, we trust you wherever you want to go. Why don't you do some research and then we'll just follow you wherever you decide. Nice. So I set out to figure out where basically 7 of us, where we were going to go. And I had built my career on for sale by owners. And there was a company in town, a guy that had beat me out on some listings from time to time. And sometimes I would beat him. So I called him and said, would you be interested in talking to us? This is what I've got going on. And I'm thinking we're all going to move, just kind of roll in somewhere. And he said no. He said, I don't want to babysit any agents. The way this is working, it's a sweet lead generation source for me because, of the particular brand. I won't mention it, but the particular brand that he was in made the phone ring for sale by owners. And which was actually why I was calling him too. Cause I'm thinking if worse comes to worse and I have to beat the streets again, like this guy must have some kind of edge, right? So that would be smart for me to go where there's an edge anyway, to be able to work my for sale by owners at a higher level again. And then, so he wouldn't take the meeting, and I finally just said, well, how about if you looked at it this way? Every now and then I beat you out on for sale by owners, and don't you want to know how I do that? So maybe we could just go to lunch and talk about how you beat me and how I beat you. And he said, all right, I'll take that meeting. So we go to that meeting, and turns out he was an active duty reservist, and he thought he was going to get called up to go to Afghanistan. And so somewhere in the middle of the conversation, he says, maybe I would be interested because you could because I had a principal broker's license. He said, you could manage them for me while I'm gone. I'm like, sure. And he said, furthermore, one of the franchises is, further south than I really want to work, has a little lower price point. So if you and your sales associate really wanted to work that area, I could see how maybe I could give that up given what you're bringing to the table too. So, so that's what I did.
So
I bought out
those franchises now. So I want to point out that you always made sure to try to be you were always in good relationships with realtor to realtors, which is what is going to sell lot of your properties, to maintain good realtor relationships.
Oh yeah.
Coming from contribution.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you stayed
in the shift in the market. Yeah, and in the shift in the market, that really served me well because I would explain to sellers how, responding to people quickly and being reasonable, and they knew up front how much they could accept, what their net was, because I was doing net sheets at the beginning. Like, here's the suggested list range, here's the bottom of the range, what you would net, here's the top of the range, here's where I think the offer is going to shake out. So they already had all those numbers. They already knew what I thought was reasonable. So when an offer came in, I was sending them the net sheet first because I really wanted them to get out of emotion, don't fall in love with a buyer or whatever. And I prepped them up front for, what they would be willing to accept so that they could respond quickly, so that a buyer could either move on or not. So I was known for quick responses. I was known for always responding. So anyway, people like to sell my listings, and then when everybody else was cutting their commissions, I was giving a bonus on the buyer side. So if you had a buyer, especially in that market where it got tight, right? Everybody's trying to sell and nobody could sell. Every agent that had a buyer wanted to show my listings because they knew I paid on average a 0.5% higher than everybody else. So who wouldn't, if you had any buyer that was anywhere close, you wanted to see it, right? So anyway, right. I digress. But as soon as I bought those, franchises, I actually turned out to be really sick. I don't know, like I can share on that or not. But I got really sick, and that I was not able to come in, and there were a lot of blessings that came out of me not being able to go into work. My team had to rise, like lots of stuff. And coming off of that, I was just really in a perspective of I think at 28 years old, you don't think you're going to just to share a little bit, basically my immune system attacked my spinal cord and paralyzed me from the waist down. And you don't think at 28 years old, you're going to wake up tomorrow and not be able to walk. And that really starts to shift priorities. And
so your Wi-Fi, Amanda, your Wi-Fi
is it breaking up?
Is a little crackly. So I want to repeat what you said real quick. Okay. So Amanda's immune system attacked her spinal cord, and she was paralyzed from the waist down when she was 28 years old. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. And you don't think about that. Like most people never think about that. I certainly didn't. even worse than that, the medicines that they put me on to try to fix me. Like at one point I was on 22 prescriptions. I had to live with my mother and father-in-law because I couldn't take care of myself or my son. And I couldn't think. I couldn't put thoughts together. So it's one thing to think my livelihood and my ability to contribute to others can be accomplished if I can just share my ideas, or I can negotiate something for them. Even if I'm in a wheelchair behind a desk, I can still do that. When you can't think, that's like a whole new level of scary, right? For just being able to make money, to be able to like just really rock my world. And then I'm fine now. Like we can talk more about that. I'm perfectly fine now. Yet coming off of that, it just makes you think about what's important to you, what you want to go accomplish in life. And coming off of that, Rob had called me back, Rob Daniel, and said, I'm going to launch an office that's near you, and I thought you might want to be a part of it. And so I said, I've been really sick, and I'm honestly, Rob, I can't imagine working for anyone else again. I'm pretty spoiled at this point. I don't even have to go into work. I'm making good money. And I don't think I'd be interested. He said, no, I thought you might want to be an investor. And I said, 2005 to 2010, I've opened a boutique real estate company, started a property management company, bought out 2 franchises. Did I mention that was 2005 to 2010? Like, I'm not going to give anybody a dime to start a real estate company, especially for Keller, who, like, nobody's even heard of Keller Williams where I was, right? So I really thought he was crazy, and go ahead.
What an opportunity.
I didn't know that. I just thought he was crazy. I knew he cared about me, but if you've ever met Rob, like, anyway, so he let me off the phone on that.
Rob was one of my bold coaches, and it helped me. I mean, I can tell you every handprint that Bold has played in my life up to this point. It is unbelievable. And I met Rob when I did Bold in Branson, and I drove 3 hours to go to Bold every single week. And he is an amazing Bold coach. He helped me break through unlimiting beliefs that I had.
Yeah.
He's an awesome and a powerhouse.
Yeah.
We may be power moms, but Rob is a powerhouse.
Yes, I love Rob. Well, he let me off the phone, believe it or not, with that objection the first time. And a couple days later, he called me back and he said, I believed in you when you were, which is true story, that actually the traditional company that I worked for the old manager tried to get him fired for coaching me because I immediately got a coach. Rob coached me from like day one in my career. And then when my manager found out that I was paying Rob for coaching, she threw a fit and called the head of the company, the president of the company, and said, can you believe Rob's taking this poor little girl's money teaching her cold calling scripts? That won't work in Williamsburg. Nobody wants to answer the phone for a cold call. Can you hear me? Are you okay? Can you hear me? Claire, you can't?
I can every once in a while. I don't know if it's the headset or if it's your Wi-Fi.
Here, let's try this.
It may be the headset. Okay.
Is that better?
Yeah.
No. It is better? Maybe it was the headset.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay, so what part did you hear last?
Something about Rob and the old manager.
Oh, my old manager tried to get Rob fired. It's kind of a funny story here. So my old manager, traditional like mother hen kind of manager so Williamsburg, Virginia, picture colonial Williamsburg. Like old money, good old boy, like very, very cliquey. And that's where I started selling real estate because I was going to William and Mary. And so I got Rob. He was coaching me from the very beginning, from day one. And my manager, I got a listing appointment first day in the office doing what Rob said to do. And I have a lot of energy now. But back then, I was pretty much doing cartwheels down the hallway, bouncing into my manager's office. I'm like, I've got a listing appointment tonight. My very first one. I'm going to, go out and take this listing. She said, you can't go. I said, what? I can't send a moron on a listing appointment, she says. Now, the good news is I'm backed against the wall because I'm a poor college student. And nobody told me, by the way, I thought it was $99 to get into real estate. And nobody told me about realtor dues or business cards. And I didn't know. So a few $1,000s later, I'm like, sign in and it's got to work. Right? So anyway, she tried to get him fired. She called the president of the company and said, would you believe, can you hear me? I'm just going to check in. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's better. It's better.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm traveling today. So anyway, she tried to get him fired. She said, your regional trainer is trying to take this poor little girl's money and teaching her cold calling scripts that won't work in our market. So she's trying to get him fired. And Rob is Rob. So he said, fine, I won't take her money. And he kept coaching me. And I listed.
Oh, love that.
And I listed 5 houses and sold 3 my first month in real estate. Just following what he said. So early on, I was willing to look at models, and like I just didn't know any better. I was young, and somebody said that'll work, and he sold over 100 homes a year. So I was smart enough to listen. You know, like if you say it'll work, so that's what I did. And then so he came back and he said, I believed you knew early in your career, maybe even when nobody else did, and I care about you. And I would never do anything that would hurt you. And I think if for no other reason than out of respect for me, you ought to listen to what I have to say about KW, because I really believe it could change your life. And when somebody comes at you with that kind of authenticity, you have to say yes to that, right? Because I did know that he cared about me.
That's right.
So I took the meeting, and he describes KW, and he draws out the 4 quadrants and explaining Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrants. And then he invites me, and I go to Anaheim. And I realize the rookies are outperforming me, and I've been in the business for 13 years, and that was not okay, because I'm just a teeny bit competitive, and not from an ego standpoint, just from are you kidding me? Like, what are they doing so different? Because I had worked my tush off to be where I was, right? Yeah. Hard work, grit, keep my heart in the right place, and that was great. And what dawned on me was that I was in a bubble. Like this, everybody was patting me on the back and telling me how great it was, yet not one person was saying, that's great, what are you going to do next year? And when you own the company, who's going to do that? Like, my employees were super comfortable all throughout the shift. Everybody made more and more money year over year. So nobody got cut or out of the business or whatever, you know? And so we were really stagnant. And that hit me like a ton of bricks coming off of being paralyzed. Like, I don't know if I'm always going to be able to walk. I don't know if I'm always going to have my health. So I didn't take that for granted. So there was a part of me that was like, I just had this built-in sense of urgency. Whatever I want my legacy to be for my child and beyond, I've got to get to it. And so I went home, couldn't get out of my franchise agreement. I didn't even realize I wasn't supposed to be talking to Keller Williams, honestly, because when I signed my franchise documents, I was in the hospital laying flat on my back. I didn't yet know what was going wrong with me. I sent a runner to get my franchise documents. So anyway, I finally made an agreement that I would leave my team, my database, my phone number. I had my entire career, everything, and I would completely start over at KW. So I took a team leader job with a $36,000 a year salary plus profit bonus. It wasn't profitable. So like, my family thought it was crazy. And what I saw for myself was, even if I have to start completely over, what I could build in 3 years at Keller Williams would be far greater than what I had built in 13 years in a bubble. So it's kind of one of those moments where Diana would say,
you saw a bigger picture.
Yeah, Diana would say, you have to give up to go up. And that's what I saw. I have to give up to go up. And time was of the essence for me, because who knows, right? I just have this urgency about me now that maybe wasn't. I've always been pretty impatient, yet now to a whole nother degree, because I see that I want to have a big impact in the world, yet what if I only have, a few years or something? I don't know, right? So so I moved to KW for that. I've done 3 market center team leader jobs.
You can have fear, or you can have faith.
Right. And, and with that, I think, kind of the way I look at risk taking is, what's the best thing that could happen? What's the most likely thing to happen if I make this decision to go in this direction? What is the worst thing that can happen? And then if the worst thing were to come to fruition, what could I recover? If the answer is yes, it doesn't even matter. The cons list doesn't even matter if I can recover, and if the list of where I want to go, if the opportunity will take me where I want to go, there's almost nothing that I won't go do. If it if it's an alignment. So it was not a big deal for me to do that. Big deal for my family, because I've always been the breadwinner in my family. Okay. And then so let's see. I came to KW. I've had 3 market center team leader jobs. The first was like a small market turnaround, where it wasn't overly profitable. The second was a launch from scratch, so building a Keller Williams market center from nothing. And then this last one was a market center that had been around for a long time, that was very profitable, won lots of awards, and was functioning pretty much like a traditional company, with a KW sign over the door, and really could benefit from just running the systems and models. Nothing extra special about it. If you work it, it works. Right. Right? And so
it does. Yeah.
And I felt like that was
just got to read it and do it.
Yeah. I think I'm pretty strategic. Like, even in choosing to go to the math and science high school, I did that because I knew I wanted to be a doctor, and I knew that I had seen the stats on the math and science students. They had $250,000 in scholarships on average, versus my high school had nothing, right? Well, not nothing yet, much smaller, right? All the colleges wanted to recruit from the math and science school. I could graduate from there and go automatically as a junior to any Arkansas or Texas school. Like, lots of strategic reasons. As a sophomore in high school, I was fighting to get into the math and science school. Right. So, and then I took AP courses. I chose not to take my AP exams so that I could get easy A's in college, so that I could boost my GPA, so that I could get into med school easier. And then I chose a college that allowed me to apply after my junior year, so that I could get early admission, so that I could avoid my MCATs, because I hate tests. Right. So I've just always been that kind of a thinker. Like, what's the shortcut? There I go. And so coming to Portland, I did.
You future paced. So what I'm hearing there is you've always future paced yourself.
Yeah, wherever I want to be, then like, okay, what are the different paths? Like, what's the fastest? What's the best? So when you move into something like Keller Williams, especially on the brokerage software, like, Keller Williams is all about systems and models, right? Systems of success. Success leaves clues, right? We teach. And what I knew about being on the brokerage side of KW, now a lot of people had a reaction to the growth initiative when John Davis first put it out. And the growth initiative was Keller Williams saying the way to greater profitability in Keller Williams is through going and getting into business with more associates, right? So there were new standards that came out around that. And a lot of people don't know this. Half of the leaders in our company decided they didn't want to get on board with that. So there was a lot of turnover. Now, they got wealthy getting out. I don't think they have anything bad to say, or they just stepped back from the roles where they wouldn't have to be held accountable at that higher level. Well, I'm getting in at a time where Keller Williams is saying this is what you do. So I was dead set to figure out how I was going to make that work versus listen to everybody else tell me that couldn't be done. And I built my career on that. You know? So it doesn't matter where you put me. Right. You can depend on me to like do those models, and I expect them to work, and they do. Right. And so Maps decided I could be a leadership coach because they had seen enough proof of that. So now I get to be a leadership coach, and then I'm still a builder. So I love coaching, and I still want to build something. So I've been able to align myself with an expansion team that's based on systems and models. So, with 5 doors, and that's what they do. That's what we do. So that's kind of my career journey.
You are so right in that success does leave clues. And what I'm learning so well from every woman that we speak with is that none of us seem to hear no very easily. And we tend to push through that and succeed above the expectations of others. And I want to know, where did you get that from? Where did the grit come from within you?
I think there are no lack of resources. There's only a lack of resourcefulness. And I didn't come up with that, by the way. I don't even know who I stole that from. So let me just be honest. Like, if you know the source,
I love
feel free to
that
put it in the
so
comments.
much.
Yet,
Say that again. Say that again.
There's no lack of resources, just a lack of resourcefulness. And I will tell you, of the 8 kids, because I'm one of 8, of the 8 kids, I am the only one that does not live in Dardanelle, Arkansas. Right? That doesn't live like within a couple of miles of my dad's farm, or on my dad's farm for that matter. And I just decided I wanted something different for myself, and if I knew it was going to be up to me. And I wasn't going to let anybody tell me no that couldn't tell me yes. And I'm a big believer in I'm not going to listen to people that haven't done what I want to do, right? So if you haven't succeeded at it, you're not going to be able to tell me that it can't be done, right? If you've tried it, then I'll listen to your feedback on what worked and what didn't. And then I may take that feedback and then go at it myself. Yet if you quit, what is there to talk about? Does that make sense? Like, I'm not going to, like, you think about people that have been in the business a long time and doing a mediocre amount of business, and then you have a rookie that comes in and wants to do something big, and then they get around the people that want to have all these reasons why, oh, that door knocking doesn't work. I mean, think about my manager. She told me I couldn't go on my first listing appointment. So I just said, I'm going. How about you send somebody with me? Right? And I took that listing that night.
Right.
Yet if I just said, okay, I'm not going to go and cancel my first listing appointment, you think I'd still be in the business? Like, at some point, you got to figure out what you want and burn the ships. You will or you will. Like,
You're there.
I am.
Okay, there you are. My phone. I'm sorry. I had a call come in, and I was like, "Is she frozen? Is she there?" Sorry. And so then I also know that you were in Arkansas, but then you were in Virginia, and then now where are you located?
I live in Lake Oswego, Oregon. That's Portland, basically. Portland, Oregon.
Yeah. But you were also in D.C. for a while.
Yeah, just outside of Washington, D.C. in Rockville, Maryland. It's where I did the launch.
You've moved. Yeah. Okay. So you've moved several times. So
yeah,
that means you've relocated with a child.
Mm-hmm.
So
yep.
part of all of us is creating a tribe or a village per se. We all have to do that. And how have you been able to do that? Relocating. Because sometimes the tribe, the village, it's ever changing. It always is. That support. And so in relocating, that's difficult. And sometimes I think that our world opens and we have opportunities and it holds us back and because of fear. And then how did you get over that? And then how have you built the tribe?
Well, remember I said there's no lack of resources, only resourcefulness, right? When that's who you are and that's what you believe, there's not a fear that there won't be a resource. So that's looked different in every place. So for example, when I moved to Rockville, Maryland, we chose to put my son in a private school such that if I decided to do something else in the organization and I needed to move across town, we would have to change his school, right? That's a strategic decision to like provide stability there. Then I've always had an assistant or someone in my world who do like the driving, like go get him and bring him to me, right? So that I'm taking out any commute time. So if I'm driving 20 minutes in one direction and the school is 20 minutes in the other direction, so that we can spend more time together versus me spending 40 minutes driving, right? That's less time. Mm-hmm. So I've had that in my life. Either at some points it's been friends, some points it's been other moms that just needed a little extra money. At other points it's been assistants, but there's always been somebody I needed in my world. So I found somebody in my world. And, you know, when my son was first born, he's never been to daycare.
Like, I'm not just happened to work out because I was resourceful. It doesn't, I was not opposed to putting him in daycare per se. It's just, you know, I was 9 months pregnant. I sold a house to a woman, a Jamaican woman who had 4 boys that were like the most respectful little dudes. And they sat there, they colored, and they said, "Thank you, Miss Amanda. We're so excited about our house." They gave me big hugs and just like sweethearts. And I just, and her youngest son was going to kindergarten. And I said, "Are you going to be lonely when he goes to kindergarten?" And she said, "Yeah. And Isaac won't let me have another," her husband wouldn't let her have another baby. And I said, "Well, if you, you know, maybe
Right.
consider doing that." And so what I made an agreement with her that when her son started school, that that I would pay her whether I brought him or not. So I've always had flexibility in my agreements like that, so that if I could stay home, desired to stay home on that day, or desired to just take him with me, that it didn't hurt her, because it's not like, if I didn't bring him, I'm not going to pay you. I might just call her that morning and say, "I'd like to spend more time with him. So I'm just going to keep him today. You can go do whatever you want, so you're not waiting around all day. And obviously, I'm still going to pay you." So that was just the agreement up front. I paid her for every day. And then when I had the time to like keep him, I did. And and he is an only child, which is interesting because I never dreamed I'd have an only child coming from a big boisterous family. And I can see now the benefits in both. So there's not any, I used to put judgments on things like that, right or wrong or whatever, you know, and I think he plays well on his own. He's super independent. He can make decisions on his own. He's like, you know, where I have to bounce stuff off of people. Like growing up for me, like you couldn't hear yourself think, so you might as well be loud and spit it out. Where my son is very, he's able to process inside. I never know what he's thinking, right? And I think part of that comes from being an only child. And I see the blessing in that. Like I see how that's a strength for him. And sometimes I wish I could be like that, you know? So I've been able to take him anywhere, and he's seen it all. I've always talked to him like he was a little adult. Even when I was sick, I explained what was going on. Mom's going to lose all of her hair because I chose to go through chemo. So he, you know, even times where like, you know, I would walk out of a room with a buyer to take a phone call, and I would come back and he would be telling them about the vaulted ceilings and the spacious, like he's using words like in the spacious dining room, and like
he's mirror and matching his mother.
That's right. And then there's other moments where you think they're not listening, and they are.
They are.
Oh my goodness, they are. And then especially as a coach, I try to use that stuff on my son, and then in the like and then it comes back at me, you know, especially like he loves to say, I remember this one time I was trying to get him out of the shower, and I was nagging, right? And he just moves like a turtle. Like I'm like super, like always in a hurry. He does not know how to hurry. And anyways, I'm like, "Colin, you need to hurry up. You need to hurry up. Like you got to get out of the shower, buddy. Let's go." And he's like, "Mom, stop, just stop." And so he's telling me to stop, and I'm like over talking him, telling him why I can't stop. So I'm in the process of saying, "But I can't stop because I have to nag you because you won't make it to school." So I'm mid-sentence explaining that part, and he says, "Mom, stop." And then I said, "I can't." And he said, "Is that 100% true? I bet you could if you tried." It's like, that is the 100% true coaching model right there, like right back at me. So it's funny how it comes back at me sometimes, and they're not listening, and when you think that they're not getting it, they absolutely are. And there have been times, you know, just a little more mom talk here. There have been times when I felt like, especially going to the private school where all the moms are volunteering all the time, and I might send my assistant for lunch duty, to be honest, because I lunch duty with a bunch of so anyway,
I mean, I don't own a tennis skirt, and I don't run around in yoga pants. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, and that's not to say that there's anything wrong with that if you want to be there and you want to do that. And I used to really like his kindergarten year. Somehow, while I was doing everything else, I was PTA president. I don't even know how I did that. That was silly. And I realized that like you don't actually get to spend a ton of time when you're volunteering at school. You don't actually get a lot of one-on-one time with your kid anyway. So I just decided that that wasn't going to be who I was. And I just had some conversations with him along the way just to check in to make sure that he didn't feel less loved because I wasn't showing up like that. So once I got over that, then I had to get over like, well, you know, some people wear it around like it's their badge of honor. Like, well, I'm at every single function. Well, I'm at the ones that matter to him. And if he really wanted me there, he wanted me to go to a field trip, he would ask and I would go. Right? So I would make time when he wanted me to make time. And if I ask, is it important for you that I'm at lunch? And he says no, I just make sure I do something special just with him. Does that make sense? And for some kids, it might be super important. And then I'd have to make a different decision. Yet, you know, I think if you ask my son.
I think it's also very important to know their love language. There's the book, The 5 Love Languages of Children. That's huge. It's huge. It goes along with that. It helps get rid of the guilt if you know how to allocate towards their love language, and that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's conversation too, right? Because in the absence of the conversation, people guess what you mean or what you intended. So I've just always been really open with him. And, you know, I think the cool thing is, you know, there's probably a lot of people that will look at me and judge me and say, well, like, yeah, but her family, or how much time does she spend with her kid? You know,
that's their own story. That's their own story that they make up.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I've also taught my son hard work and that he can do anything that he wants and not to be afraid of anything and to think really big because he's seen me go do that. That's how I show up every single day. Like, so that's authentically who I am. And so he goes at stuff with no fear. Does that make sense?
That's right.
So like just like me being one of many kids, and that was a choice that my family made, I learned some good things there. And there's a downside to that. I never learned to actually be quiet. You know? Where my son, he's used to quiet.
I love that you just said
that. I don't know how to bite my tongue.
I haven't really either. Yeah. It comes with age. There is a lag, and that's okay. Maybe it comes with age. I hope so. So, Amanda, you've been fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. So much wisdom and so much I still have to learn from you. And I so appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
And thank you so much. I can't wait to see you at family reunion.
Yeah, likewise.
Yes. Okay. Have a great rest of your Thursday.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.